firstly, for 50 years, I believed it's in the national interest for Britain to be in the European Union, and I'm very glad we've benefited from it as much as we have the last 40 years. The country's been transformed, not just because of it, but it's gave us the chance of reforming when I was a young man, and made us a modern country with a more modern economy. We had to create that. We're in the right setting in this big single market. I've never been in favour of referendums. I was quite open about that. My constituents voted to remain. I've been on the losing side of general elections. When I turn up in Parliament, I'm not told I must agree with the government. They've just won. It's quite wrong for me to start voting against education policy or something. And I'm there to use my best judgment, which happens, fortunately for me, to coincide with my constituents. The other thing is, all right, we voted Brexit. I'm sure we are going to leave the European Union. The campaign, the arguments, did not touch on what we actually voted for. What system are we now putting in place? Am I going to be told that we're now going to renegotiate the single market, the customs union, that presumably elaborate negotiations will go on about the trade and automobiles and components, which are very international, and I'm going to be told I don't agree with that? He said, oh, no, the British people have spoken. They have decided that this arrangement is the one that Parliament's got to vote for. Well, they did. That is what they decided, isn't it? No, it was never even discussed. The people who voted leave voted for a variety of reasons, and what it added up to, they wanted to leave the European Union. I accept that. But there were, as on the Remain side, a whole lot of different reasons why they voted. Absolutely nobody even talked about what you did instead of staying in the European Union. Brexiteers in Parliament don't agree with each other.
No, but do you embrace the will of the British majority, which is what Gary's question was, that the majority want to leave the EU, and do you support that?
Not for the first time. I am totally against referendums, but I don't want to make that the main point, because that dodges my arguments about Europe. I have often looked at an opinion poll and said, I don't agree with the majority. I think they're mistaken. I don't think that's genuinely in our interest. My job as a politician is to try to argue, to change opinion, to vote for what I believe to be right.
Before the referendum, even though I'm one of those foreigners that you want to keep out.
No. Let's get it right.
I'm joking.
We like you.
Thank you. I feel really loved here. I crisscrossed the country. I was in Scotland, I was in Wales, I was in Doncaster, in Leeds, and I was campaigning for what I would refer to a radical Remain in the EU against this EU. Of course, you folks didn't buy this kind of argument. You voted for Brexit. As a Democrat, I have to agree with you guys. I despise, firstly, the demonization of the people who voted against us, people like me, and I despise the way in which the establishment would like to do to the British people what the European Union did to the Irish in 2008. You remember the Irish had a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty in 2008, and they voted against it, and then they were asked to vote again, and they were told that they would have to keep voting until they deliver the right verdict, right?
Shocking.
Having said that, the greatest argument for Brexit, even though it didn't convince me because I remain a Remainer, the greatest argument for Brexit concerns the restoration of national sovereignty and the sovereignty of the House of Commons. But what does this mean at this juncture where we are? What it means is that we need to create the circumstances for the House of Commons to enter into a debate on what kind of Brexit you have. Because my interpretation of the 23rd of June result is, you lot, the British people I mean, since I'm not one of you, what you said to the establishment was, start cooking, recipe will follow. In other words, we want Brexit. We don't know what Brexit we want because we haven't had an opportunity to discuss this.
But yeah, and we were quite clear. You know, it was about.
Maybe you were, but
hang on,
there was never a debate.
But Yanis, you know Europe well enough. You were a finance minister in Greece. You know the workings of Europe. It would have been impossible to actually say we want Brexit, and by the way, this is the detail.
Of course,
because until you start
it's not a criticism. What I'm saying is a fact that Britain has decided for Brexit. But you have not decided which Brexit, and there is a multitude of potential Brexits, And which Brexit you choose is going to determine the future of this nation. And I do not want to see that future being decided behind closed doors by this pythonesque Department of Exit, whatever it is that you call it, staffed by several people of very low IQ in my estimation.
Oh, really? Who are these?
Who are
Name
absolutely
names.
outside the mainstream, both of Britain and outside the process of Parliament.
I think you have to name names if you're going to say that.
I'm not going to name any names. You know the names very well.
All right. The woman...